The instant you step into a room, people begin analyzing you. They observe your expressions, assess your tone, and interpret your pauses. While most do this instinctively driven by fear, desire, or insecurity, Machiavelli approached it with deliberate surgical precision. To him, power wasn't just in words or actions, it lay in how swiftly you could see through others. To manipulate someone, you must first comprehend them. To protect yourself, you need to anticipate them. To assert dominance, you must perceive them before they know they've been exposed. Machiavelli understood that appearances deceive. Every smile might be an act, every handshake a warning, every compliment a subtle probe. So he developed strategies, not assumptions. 14 psychological techniques meant to decode a person's nature, intentions, and vulnerabilities instantly. Tactic 1, watch. How they treat those they deem invisible. Ignore how they treat you, that's often a performance. Instead, notice how they engage with individuals they consider insignificant, like servers, assistants, or anyone lacking influence. Machiavelli observed that power subtly distorts fragile minds. When someone thinks there's no need to pretend, they'll reveal how they'll treat you once your worth declines. How they act toward the powerless offers a more authentic glimpse of their character than how they behave around equals, because there's no reason to mask it. Tactic 2. Use silence to expose the facade. Insecurity thrives in noise. People talk not from comfort, but from the fear of being seen in quiet. To truly read someone, speak less than they do. Stay silent. Wait longer. Let your quietness carry more weight than their words. Soon they'll overexpose, attempt to impress, reveal anxieties, and disclose intentions. Silence is an emptiness. It's a form of pressure. And under that pressure, the truth leaks out. Tactic 3. Withhold everything and observe. This is one of Machiavelli's most merciless approaches. Offer them no praise, no attention, no benefit, only your calm, unreadable presence. Why me? Because how people treat you when they get nothing in return reveals their core. Do they become cold? Their warmth was self-serving. Do they push harder? They crave validation. Do they remain composed? They possess inner control and may be formidable. The less you provide, the more you uncover. Tactic 4. Disrupt their control script. Some people move through life using well-rehearsed personas. They've polished charm-scripted vulnerability and packaged honesty to curate how they're perceived. Machiavelli noted these people are hardest to read unless you derail their script. Ask something they're not ready for. Respond to flattery with indifference. Let silence hang after a joke. Change the topic just when they gain momentum. When their rhythm breaks, so does the mask, and their true self peeks through. Tactic 5. Gauge loyalty through subtle denials. Don't wait for betrayal to assess someone's allegiance. Create the moment. Decline a minor request. Delay a favor they expected. Step back emotionally, then observe. Do they stay composed, or do they begin to criticize, pull away, or talk behind your back? Machiavellian minds understand that loyalty isn't revealed when someone is winning, it's exposed when they feel rejected. The smallest refusal can uncover the biggest truth. Tactic 6. Watch their attention, not their speech. Words can lie, but attention is honest. While they speak, notice where their focus drifts. Do their eyes gravitate toward people in power? They hunger for status. Do they overlook those with less influence? They only value advantage. Do they glance at their phone while you're talking? You're just a placeholder. Do they echo your body language? They're seeking approval. Machiavelli didn't waste time listening to words, he followed attention. Because where someone invests their focus reveals what they truly care about and what they dismiss. Tactic 7. Invent a harmless flaw and watch the response. Offer up a small, fictional weakness, something believable but fabricated. Say something like, I tend to overthink, or I used to be too trusting, or I'm not great at confrontation. Then watch. Do they weaponize it later? Mock it or use it against you? They're opportunistic. If they ignore it, they might be respectful or cautious. But if they share a personal weakness in return, they seek connection and feel safe. By offering fake vulnerability, you test their real response to perceived weakness without exposing yourself. Tactic 8. Delay and observe. Nothing reveals entitlement faster than making someone wait. Respond late to messages. Be vague about plans. Take longer to deliver than expected. Entitled individuals will pressure, guilt trip, or show frustration. But those with patience stay composed and flexible. Machiavelli didn't just look for loyalty, he measured emotional durability. Because those who lack patience are quickest to turn toxic when circumstances stop favoring them. Time reveals temperament. Tactic 9. Identify who they mimic. Everyone imitates someone, whether consciously or subconsciously. Their tone, posture, even choice of words reflects someone they admire. Machiavelli believed you could decode a person's ambition by observing who they emulate. If they mirror the powerful, they desire control. If they follow the popular, they crave attention. If they mimic the morally upright, they seek superiority. Who someone copies is who they aspire to become. Once you spot the influence, you understand their drive. Tactic 10. Trigger envy. Then watch their expression change. Casually mention a personal win, new opportunity, or flattering compliment. Then observe closely. Is their smile forced? Do they instantly change the subject? Do they minimize your success? That's envy. And envy, Machiavelli believed, is the most hazardous emotional clue because it often signals sabotage. It doesn't scream, it flickers. And once you detect it, it's unforgettable. Tactic 11. Ask them what they despise. Forget asking about what they enjoy, that's easily faked. Instead, ask what kind of people irritate you or what behaviors do you dislike in others, because their answers rarely reflect others, they reflect themselves. What people claim to hate often points to traits they suppress in themselves. Those who detest arrogance often harbor quiet pride. Those who condemn dishonesty are frequently adept at bending truth. Those who mock weakness are usually terrified of appearing fragile. In judgment, you find a disguised confession. Tactic 12. Notice what breaks their eye contact. Sustained eye contact is power, but it's what shatters it that reveals truth. Bring up subjects like wealth, shame, failure, status, or authority. Then watch their eyes. Do they flinch, glance away, or suddenly blink? The eyes shift when something hits too close. Machiavelli knew that eyes aren't just portals to the soul. They're exits for repressed emotion. What the eyes avoid tells you what the mind fears. Tactics 13 and 14 reveal the deepest truths. These were Machiavelli's personal techniques, the ones he used to guard crowns, maneuver around betrayal, and guide the minds of others like a conductor. When you apply them, you don't just read someone, you shape how they perceive you. These last strategies aren't about watching, they're about engineering a perception that draws out truth. While ordinary minds chased insight through questions, Machiavelli stirred people into revealing it themselves. He didn't seek trust, he applied tension. He didn't request, he provoked. These final tactics expose the core of a person's psyche, not by reading but by framing the encounter. Tactic 13. Become the mirror they cannot ignore. Most individuals walk through life in disguise. They perform roles, project charm, and craft appearances. Machiavelli realized that subtly reflecting someone's tone, posture, or word choice without overdoing it creates a deep unconscious trigger they see themselves. And how they react shows what they're concealing. Mirror their informality. Do they become dominant? Mirror their confidence. Do they retreat? Mirror their uncertainty. Do they grow smug or mocking? When you reflect their energy, you create subtle dissonance. Most won't notice consciously, but their instincts will flare. And those reflexes will tell you if you're facing authenticity, defensiveness, or deception. The greater their shift, the more artificial their mask. Tactic 14. Lead with respect. Strike with insight. People expect criticism, so they show up guarded, rehearsed, and defensive. Machiavelli's brilliance was starting with sincere praise. Compliment their intellect. Recognize their accomplishments. Validate their thinking, even if you don't fully agree. Why? Because safety lowers defenses. Then deliver the real question, the one that breaks past their facade. For instance, you clearly think deeply, what's the biggest fear guiding your choices? Or you come off as incredibly confident. When did you first learn to project that image? Or say, you clearly read people well, but how do you know when someone is reading you? Respect opens the door, but it's the precise question that strips the mask away. People become most truthful when they feel admired. That's when the genuine information surfaces. Now that you've mastered reading people psychologically, the second layer emerges, understanding them strategically. Machiavelli wasn't concerned with personality traits for their own sake. He analyzed people as if they were terrain, because every flaw, routine, and blind spot could be leveraged, influenced, or defended against. Once you identify their hidden fears, you gain more than insight, you gain quiet power. Not for destruction, not for deception, but to guide outcomes without being noticed. If someone fears abandonment, use distance as leverage. If they hunger for recognition, subtle withdrawal of praise makes them chase validation. If they thrive on control, inject unpredictability to unsettle them. And if they conceal malice behind a smile, you already know where and how to apply pressure or how to lead them into self-sabotage. This is where emotional reading becomes tactical engagement. Categorize them into behavioral archetypes, but never speak it aloud. Machiavelli didn't voice labels, he stored them mentally. He never said he's self-absorbed or she's emotionally fragile. He observed, sorted, and responded without ever naming the pattern. Why? Because labeling destroys influence. People resist being defined, but unspoken classification. That shapes behavior without resistance. A few key archetypes. The hidden pleaser, hungry for approval, manageable with praise yet reactive when denied. The quiet strategist, seemingly loyal but alert to power vacuums. Respect them but maintain distance. The unstable intellect, brilliant yet emotionally volatile, useful if you can manage their moods. The defensive talker over-explains and reacts excessively, usually concealing guilt or insecurity. You don't need to tell them who they are. You only need to understand how to handle them while they believe they're handling you. Watch how they respond to no. Nothing tests character better than denial. Machiavelli believed that true strength is seen not in success but in restraint. Say no to something they assumed was theirs, a favor, a compliment, an opportunity, or even attention. Then observe. If they stay calm, they're disciplined. If they snap or sulk, ego is in control. If their tone changes entirely, the performance is over. Denying their expectations reveals their true emotional core. Now identify who they aim to impress, one of Machiavelli's fundamental truths. People rarely speak just to express, they speak to position. Every sentence spoken in your presence is part of a silent strategy, even if unintentional. So ask, who is their current audience? Is it you, they're craving your approval? Is it a group they're vying for dominance? Is it someone absent? They're signaling toward a hidden figure. Track their eyes. See whose reaction they monitor. Every joke, every opinion, every gesture is aimed at someone's attention. Once you see who they perform for you, understand whose loyalty they're truly aligned with, and it might not be you. Pay attention to what they're proud of, and then search for its opposite. People often showcase a trait to mask the one they're actually ashamed of. Someone who says, "I'm just brutally honest," is often manipulating through selective truths. A person who insists, "I stay out of drama," usually generates it. And someone who proclaims, "I always prioritize others," is often quietly resentful or controlling. Machiavelli believed that when someone overemphasizes a single virtue, it's rarely genuine because true strength doesn't announce itself. It simply exists. So when someone broadcasts one trait, loudly examine the shadow it's meant to hide. That's where the truth tends to live. These aren't wild guesses. They're precision tools meant to sharpen your edge. You're no longer interpreting people as unpredictable puzzles. You're decoding them as patterns, scripts, and automated responses. But reading people is only the first phase. Once you know what drives them, you must decide how to engage. Do you satisfy their mask? Do you test them, uplift them, or dismantle their illusion entirely? Because with deeper understanding comes the temptation to detach or dominate. But Machiavelli didn't shy away from this edge. He embraced it. He didn't see others as threats or burdens. He saw them as instruments to move the game forward. And now that you can read anyone, the true mastery begins using that insight to win without being detected. Your power doesn't lie in knowing secrets. It lies in using those secrets without ever letting them know you uncovered them. This is when Machiavellian intelligence evolves from mere perception into quiet influence. You're no longer just watching, you're leading. And they're responding to your cues, unaware they're being guided. Most people attempt to influence others through argument, logic, or sincerity. Machiavelli had no interest in being liked. He aimed to be obeyed. Subtly, silently, relentlessly. The first rule of invisible influence is to let the person believe they're acting from their own will. First mirror their desire, then steer it. Once you've identified what they want, whether it's status, attention, or security, you don't confront it. You reflect it. If they're ambitious, praise their ambition. If they're insecure, affirm their effort. If they're dominant, respect their authority. This creates a sense of being understood and lowers their defenses. And once they're open, you redirect. Connect their desire to your goal. If they crave recognition, suggest they'll gain more by aligning with your vision. If they want influence, show how your direction elevates their visibility. You don't oppose their motivation, you co-opt it. And when they move in your direction, they'll believe it was their idea all along. Second, leverage calculated vulnerability to get them talking. People love talking about themselves, especially when they believe they're helping you. Machiavelli used this dynamic like a surgeon's blade. He'd reveal a minor flaw, something believable, yet insignificant, like, I'm not great at judging people right away, or I get so absorbed in work sometimes, or I wish I had your people skills. Why? Because it disrupts emotional equilibrium. They now feel a sense of superiority feeding their ego. They feel helpful, which creates a subtle sense of emotional investment, and they feel trusted, which builds a false sense of intimacy. In that mental space, they begin to open up. They start disclosing things they normally conceal, not due to pressure, but because they feel secure and slightly elevated. A mind that feels safe speaks openly. A mind that feels superior speaks honestly. And now you've unlocked both. Third, offer a partial truth to create the illusion of mutual trust. People are most trusting when they believe you're also trusting them. That's why Machiavelli would share a half-truth or a carefully crafted confession, just raw enough to feel real but never risky. For example, I had to learn the hard way not to trust too easily, or people underestimated me until I stopped being nice. This forms a false reflection. They believe you're the same as them, and in their comfort, they lower their defenses. That's when they reveal something genuine. This was Machiavelli's exchange formula. You hand them one puzzle piece, and they give you the entire map. Fourth, allow them to define themselves, then use that script. One of the most powerful forms of manipulation is to never define someone, but to let them define themselves. They might say, I really value loyalty, or I can't stand wasted time, or I always keep emotions out of decision-making. Now you've got their identity script. You understand what they're trying to protect and how to tailor your language, requests, or objections so they align with their personal narrative. If you ever need them to act against their instincts, just reframe it using their stated values. Say, you're someone who values loyalty. I knew I could count on you, or you hate inefficiency. Here's a faster way. You're not convincing them. You're affirming who they believe they are while pointing them in your direction. And they won't resist because it feels like self-consistency. Fifth, give them a role they'll feel compelled to protect. People fear losing more than they desire winning, so give them a reputation to defend. Machiavelli was known to assign reputations before people earn them. Tell them you're known for keeping your promises, or everyone respects how you stay out of politics, or you're the one who keeps things steady. Now they've been put on the record. And if they act in contradiction to that persona, they risk seeming fake or inconsistent. So they play the part. They live up to your projection because you've transformed it into a social expectation. In essence, you've installed a behavior pattern without ever issuing a command. Sixth, let selective truths slip to shape how they perceive you. You don't always need to push someone directly. Sometimes you just need to let the right message reach them indirectly. Maybe it's a story about outmaneuvering a rival. Maybe it's a joke that signals you're not naive. Or perhaps a passing comment about your high standards. These carefully placed leaks create intrigue and recalibration. People begin to shift their behavior around you based on the impression they believe they arrived at on their own. And that's precisely the point, because once someone thinks they've figured you out, they stop analyzing. And once the questioning ends, they fall into patterns. Predictability becomes your advantage. Seventh, give them early wins so you can control the final outcome. One of Machiavelli's most calculated plays was to offer people small early victories. Let them believe their idea prevailed, their leadership is essential, or their input is original. He strategically fed their ego with harmless affirmations, all while quietly designing the end result to serve his own interests. Because he understood people defend what they believe they created, stand by what they believe was their idea, and remain loyal when they feel essential, even if they're being directed. Allow them to write the opening, you control the ending. At this stage, you're no longer just interpreting people, you're constructing systems around their behavior. You're not responding to them anymore, you're anticipating them. But the pinnacle of Machiavellian perception isn't simply about understanding others, it's about what your ability to understand others reveals about you. There's always a shadow in the hyper-observant mind, because once you see through everyone, the danger is in starting to believe you're above them. You begin making moves without feeling. You begin pulling strings for the thrill. And this is where the sharp mind must evolve not just into someone who can read, manipulate, or win, but someone who knows exactly when to stop playing and when to vanish while still remaining in control. At the highest tier of Machiavellian mastery, the game ceases to feel like a game. It becomes instinct. You no longer pause to wonder, how do I analyze this person? You simply know. You enter a space and the data floods in. Who is insecure, who is acting, who holds quiet power, and who is scanning you with the same precision you're scanning them.